Good day, everyone, and welcome again to our subject campus journalism. For today's discussion, we will talk about the campus paper and the publication stuff. So, before delving on a campus paper, it is wise to start a discussion on a supra level. So, this is for you to understand primarily the concept of the system that campus paper has. So, let us start with defining the national newspaper. So a newspaper is a publication, this is sold and distributed regularly in a fixed interval. So it may be monthly, bi-monthly, weekly, daily, and etc. And this is because newspapers fall under the category of periodicals. So usually, news in newspaper is meant to be persuasive, and this is why some news includes opinions and comments that stimulate reactions from the readers. So another latent function of newspaper is to entertain by the use of photos, the cartoons, the quizzes, and other interesting features. So this is the example of the newspaper. So while papers publish every day, this is called the dailies, and we call those which are published weekly, which is the weeklies. So national papers are widely available and easily bought. So the national papers fall under the two categories. So these are the popular paper and the heavy or quality paper. So when we say popular paper, these present their news in a lively fashion with easy to read articles and many photographs. So while heavy or quality paper, these are the printed with longer articles stressing on important and serious events in the country. So some newspaper publishers produce Sunday papers sometimes with the same nameplate as the daily papers. These are not Sunday editions of the dailies, but instead they are of different editors and editorial staff. So the reason behind this is the availability of more people to read during Sundays. So the price of the Sunday paper tends to be higher than the regular paper, but it contains more news. So let us now proceed in discussing the campus paper. So the campus paper is the version of the national newspaper within an academic institution. So in other words, it is a pioneer in the publishing industry as a free newspaper of the students, by the students, and for the students to circulate within the academic community. So the campus paper may broaden its reach like the community and other agencies in the society. With the advent of the Campus Journalism Act of 1991, otherwise known as Republic Act number 7079, the establishment of campus publication in basic education and in higher learning institution has been legalized. So since the campus paper is run by the students, they have the chance to stimulate the daily newspapers characteristics at the same time act as a journalist in their own fields. So it should be noted that the campus paper is contextualized within the institution. Hence, priority issues should emanate from the institution before touching local, national, and international concerns. So it is observed that the size and frequency of the paper vary depending on the policies of the editorial board. So the fund or publication budget and the population of the learning institution, there are higher learning institutions which collect a campus paper fee that can finance a semestral release of a newsletter, a tabloid, a magazine, a broadsheet, and sometimes a literary folio. So the school too may decide to release a special edition of its publication or organ during intramurals, any foundation days, or on any special occasions. So, in many instances, though, school papers under the Department of Education opt to release newsletters due to the consideration of the fund, the population, and the school. So, this is the example of the campus paper. So, what should go into the campus paper? So, campus journalism serves as a means to strengthen the ethical values and to encourage the creative and critical thinking of the Filipino youth. So, it is also um, helps in developing the personal discipline and moral character of the young. So, campus journalism is one of the most effective means of teaching the students the basic and advanced writing techniques and inculcating in them the values of work and fair judgment. So it is a good training ground for future journalists or for writers. So through the school paper, the student writers are able to develop their skills and enhance their craft. So moreover, with campus paper, both the campus journalists and the target audience are help appreciate the role of the press in shaping public opinion. So primarily, the campus paper promotes the best interest not only of the students but also of the faculty and administration. So the paper is for the pleasant and wholesome relationship between the teachers and their students. So it is an avenue also where the students ventilate their opinions, including the grievances. In fact, many school papers and higher learning institutions maximize this function. So today, the campus paper has become an avenue to expose anything against anyone. So this brings problems with the editorial board's security of responsibility, the objectivity, and the fairness. So the student writer may write about us is anything. So they observe responsibility, objectivity, and fairness, and hearing both sides of the issue. So for instance, student writers must not only publish an article about teachers who are enraged with students, but must also look into the reasons why teachers are enraged through interview with the teachers. So remember, the prime cause of the campus paper is to create a campus conducive for learning and to advance the quality of education. So let us now proceed to the functions of campus paper. So a campus paper may be a mimeographed or printed, a published or released by an organization or school whose name or logo appears in the masthead or in editorial box. So the campus paper, like any other media, has functions. So aid to students. So number one is it provides opportunity for interesting writing. So it gives students the opportunity to learn how to read the newspapers, acts as stimulus to better work, develop students' power of observation and discrimination concerning relative merits of new articles, and serve as outlet and motivation for journalistic writing. So it offers also training in organizations, business methods, commercial arts, salesmanship, bookkeeping, and business management. And lastly, it develops qualities of cooperation, tact, accuracy, tolerance, responsibility, and leadership. How about aids to school community? So, informs the community of the work of the school, of course, publishes school news, creates and expresses school opinions, makes known the achievement of the school, helps unify the school, and encourages to stimulate worthwhile activities, develops right standard of conduct, provides an outlet for student suggestions for the betterment of the school, and develops better inter-school relationship, develops school spirit, and develops cooperation between the parents and the school. So we have other functions of the campus paper. So these are cited by Simon and colleagues. Number one is we have the information function. So this is the function of the news in the campus paper to inform. So since information dissemination is the main purpose of the campus paper, this is the function most likely performed by any campus paper. So it gives the readers information concerning the things around the community and within the school. So, for example, of activities include the graduation schedule, the enrollment procedures, number of enrollees for the semesters, and other routine and non-routine news in an academic year. So we have also the opinion function. So this the main purpose for this is to persuade the reader toward a certain point of view. So through the editorials and editorial columns, So editors have the chance to post their opinion regarding the current events inside the school and the community. So the campus paper therefore can steer the emotions and convictions of the reading public and the members of the academic community. Next is the education function. So this is one of the primordial functions of the campus paper. So since the students and teachers alike are expected to read the school paper, which showcases topics that may be intensively and extensively discussed, the reading public may somehow be educated. So the taboo topics such as sex education, the family planning, and the like are sample issues in which a campus paper can be effective. Next is the watchdog function. So the school paper serves, I'm sorry, I did not include the definition, but I want you to bear this and take down notes. The watchdog function is the school paper serves as the harbinger of truth in the campus. So in other words, the writers are the eyes of the readers to see what is happening in the school and guard the right of the young ones. So that is why it called the watchdog function. Next is the laboratory function. So the school paper becomes an avenue of teaching budding journalists. So the school paper, as discussed previously, it is a miniature version of the daily newspaper where all rights and privileges, including concepts and skills in journalism, are practice. So that is why it becomes the avenue of teaching and budding journalists. So it becomes a training ground for full-fledged journal someday. So in fact, the many campus papers in Manila have become the stepping stones of the prominence. So the Filipino journalists today. So these papers include the Philippine Collegian of the University of the Philippines, the PNU Torch of the Philippine Normal University, and etc. Next is we have the documentation function. So the paper also serves as the posterity tool of worthy and must be remembered occasions in the campus. So this is why many school publications practice submitting more than one copy to the campus library and to the archive section so that the paper becomes an evidence of what transpired in such a semester, a school year, or a grading period. Next is we have the entertainment function. So, as a mini version of the national newspapers where entertainment section exists, the school paper likewise showcases features stories. So, the main purpose of this is to stimulate the soul and to feed the brain at the same time. So, sample stories in the campus that entertain the readers include the experiences of a freshman, the most embarrassing moment of a senior, and the ghost in room sa pagitan, the shoemaster along the corridor, and others. Next is the developmental function. So, in developing country like the Philippines, scholastic and commercial journalism has been given greater and nobler significance. So, the sources of new journalists are also the schools. So, journalists in campus publications are most likely to be the journalists of the future. So, the young journalists whose new news deals with a club activities, school elections, and campus activities will eventually become a better one whose news deal with the activities of the nation, the national elections, and the national concerns. So the developmental function of the campus paper does not only have the implications on the young ones themselves but also on the school as a whole. So the school administrators and staff may reflect their performance on the school paper and see what improvements must be done. So whatever the type of paper it is, the parts and the sections are similar to one another. So here are the major sections of the campus paper. Number one is we have the front page. So let us now first discuss the front page. So these are the parts of the front page. Number one is the name plate. So when we say nameplate, this is the engraved or printed name logo or symbols of the newspaper. So more often than not, the nameplate also bears the scope of the publication, that is the date when the articles were taken in it, and it is also includes the volume and number of the particular release. So these are the nameplate. Next is we have the ears. So when we say ears, these are the little boxes in either or both sides of the nameplate. So ears usually contain advertisement or announcement. So these are the ears located here in the top of the title of the newspaper. Next is we have the banner or the head. It is the principal headline, which is usually written in the boldest and bigger font. So it is the title of the most important news of the day. So this most important news is called the banner news. So the banner runs across the front page. Next is we have the running head. This is a type of head having two or more lines. So this is the example of the running head. Next is the headline. This refers to any title of any news. So this is the example of the headline. So economic crisis, financial growth, and etc. Next is we have deck. This is a subordinate headline or head which is immediately placed below its mother head to give more information about it. So this is the example of the deck headlines. So as you can see here, just like the ear at the top of the newspaper, decks also composed of two or more or four deck headlines. Next is the lead. So this refers to the beginning of a news story. So this means that a lead could be a word, a phrase, a sentence, or even a paragraph. So next is the news story. So this is the whole story of a part or a part of the whole story about the news, which is composed of the lead and the text supporting and elaborating the lead. So this is the example of the news story. Next is the column. So they are the horizontal divisions of the parts or text of a newspaper. So the number of columns varies from one kind of paper to another. So that is a newsletter has a smaller number of columns as compared to a broadsheet. So this is the example of the column. Next is the column rules. So the column rules are vertical lines that indicate the divisions of the column. So in modern journalism, these lines are substituted with a space, a blank column rule, or the space column rules, or more formally known as sunken rules, and are usually 1 m wide. With the advent of digital layouting, the printer may adjust the column rule easily and quickly. Next is we have the fold. So it is the imaginary horizontal line that divides the paper into two. So the purpose of the fold is primarily rooted from the layouting rule that the fold should not overlay or run against the banner head. Should the fold run over the banner head, the layout is considered faulty, just like this. So usually when you see a newspaper and it folds and you can read at the same time even if it's folded. Next is the byline. So a byline is the signature name or pseudonym of the reporter who prepared the news. So it can be seen in various form by Ruben Balakbak or R Balakbak or anything. So one common error in campus paper insofar as writing byline is concerned is the inclusion of the colon between the preposition by and the name of the writer. So this style is now obsolete. So usually the colon is deleted thus by Ruben Balakbak, not by Ruben Balakbak. So this is the example of the next is the box. So box is any news materials enclosed by line rules is a box story. So in this case, here are specially types of boxes because they are especially named because of their position. So just like this. Next is the cut. This is a metal plate bearing the newspaper's illustration. Next is a cut line. A cut line is the text accompanying photos or other artwork. So it is commonly known as a caption. So if the text shows above the photo, it is called overline. This is the cut line. Next is the overline. So it is the type of cut line written or shown above the photo. So same example, for example, is the overline. The cut line is below the pictures, while the overline is above the picture. Next is the kicker. So kicker is a tagline above but smaller than the headline. So it gives stimulating but small details about the headline, and this is why it is also called the teaser. Next is the hammer. So hammer is a type of kicker, but the difference is that a hammer is bigger than the headline. Next is credit line. Is a line given to pay respect to the source of the story or illustration printed. So this is done usually for stories or illustrations imported or borrowed from other printed materials or people. So the difference of a byline from a credit line is that byline is usually a name, a signature, or a pseudonym of the reporter within the newspaper staff. But the credit line is used for those which are borrowed or imported. So foreign news and the Dateline news often have the credit line. So those are the parts of the front page. So let us now proceed to the news page and the editorial page. Number one is the editorial proper. So the article that is considered to be the soul of a newspaper or magazine. So it is an article that gives the conglomeration of opinions of the members of the editorial board on the hottest issues of the day. So this is the example of the editorial proper. Next is we have the column. A column is a recurring piece or article in the paper. So it is primarily written by a columnist who is well acquainted with the subject. What differentiates a column from the other forms of journalism is that the column meets each of the following criteria. So it is a regular feature in publication, it is a personality driven, and it explicitly contains an opinion or point of view. So this is the example of the column. So as you can see here, the CAS column. Next is we have the op-ed. So this is the abbreviation of opposite the editorial page. So abbreviated from opinion editorial. So this is a newspaper article that expresses the opinions of a named writer who is usually unaffiliated with the newspaper's editorial board. So these are different from editorials, which are usually unassigned and written by editorial board members. So op-eds are so named because they are generally printed on the page opposite the editorial. Next is we have the letter to editor. So this is sometimes abbreviated LTTE, or LTE is a letter sent to a publication about issues of concern to its readers. So usually the letters are intended for the publication. So in many publications, letters to the editor may be sent through either conventional mail or electronic mail. So the subject matter of letters to the editor varies widely. So however, the most common topics include the supporting or opposing an editorial stance, commenting on a current issue being debated by a governing body, remarking on materials, and correcting a perceived error or misinterpretation. So this is the example of the letters to editor. Next is we have the editorial cartoon. This is also known as a political cartoon. It's a caricature containing a political or social message that usually relates to current events of personalities. So just like the example in our screen. Next is folio. So this usually written on the top of the page. This is composed of the page number, date of publication, and the name of the newspaper. Last is the masthead. This is also called a flag. So it shows the publication's name, the volume, and the number of release, the names of the staff, and their respective position. So those are the parts of the editorial page. And we have also the features page, the community developmental page, the science and technology page, and last is we have the sports page. So the sports section of a newspaper features information on local sports events like high school sports teams. The college level sports are also covered in this section, so both on regional and national level. So often sports page in Philippine campus papers accommodate stories about intramurals and relevant national sports issues. And the students writers may consider writing sports analysis, sports editorials, backgrounder, prophetic sports news, and the like. So as regards with the reporters on other news, be it as sports journalism involves investigating the story rather than simply relying on press releases and prepared statement from the sports team, the coaching staff, or players. So the sports journalists verify facts given to them by the athletes, the teams, the leagues, or the organization they are covering. So those are the sports page. So let us now proceed in selection of the publication stuff. So notably, there are no hard and fast rules on how to organize the staff and to pick the editors. So each school should therefore work out a system best suited to its particular setup. So there are common mind-boggling questions for the publication head or the moderator of the campus paper, like how are the editors and the staff members chosen? How long should they serve, or how big should the staff be? Should they be paid, or to whom are they responsible? First, there should be a moderator or an advisor who must possess the following qualifications in order in the order of their importance. So number one is with a degree in journalism, bachelor or master or a specialization, or one with a degree in English, bachelor and master of specialization. Next is with experience in newspaper work, or one with more than ordinary experience in journalism or school paper work. So other schools consider one who teaches social studies. So this setup is the traditional setup of picking the advisor or the moderator. So the Campus Journalism Act has a different basis for choosing the advisor. Selecting an advisor is also an optional for the tertiary level. So for the traditional and beginning campus paper system in the Department of Education, the principal or the head of the school, with the recommendation of the advisor, may designate the members of the staff or may pick them through a competitive examination. So the candidates should possess writing ability, leadership, and previous experiences in school publication and in such order. So whatever the criteria are in choosing the staff, the method should be a systematic, objective, and fair. So whatever the editors and staff members are chosen through recommendation or competitive examination, so the following pointers are recommended. Number one is the candidate should have at least 1 year residence. The candidate should not be in the probation list, and she must not have any disciplinary case against him or her. The chief, associate, and managing editor should not hold other major positions in school organization. So the most democratic way to select the staff is through a competitive examination followed by an interview. So, however, there are certain drawbacks if there are no qualified teachers who will evaluate the entries in the competitive examination. The test will not be worthwhile. So, if a big number of students join the competition, the evaluation will take a long time. So, the another question is, in what phases of journalism would the test be? So, news writing, editorial writing, layouting, or actual press work? If the test is in editorial writing only, is not that just one phase of work. Because of these drawbacks, the advisors resorts to designation. So the drawback here is favoritism. So the advisor should not rely only on result of the examination. They should also look for people who did not take the examinations but have the writing skills. So they should ask them to join the board, but they should refrain from taking students into the staff who have more activities in their hands that they can handle. So they should be aware of students who only love to see their names in the masthead or editorial box. So the choice of editor should be based on who obtains the highest average in the examinations and who possess the most in personal qualities or traits like leadership or managerial skills, the sound judgment, and flexibility. So advisors should file and publish in the bulletin board the results of the examination and the comments of the judges. So the next question is, how large should be staff be? So a manageable staff should not be more than 10 as follows. We have the chief editor, the associate editor, the managing editor, the feature editor, the literary editor, the sports editor, and the reporter. So one for each class, senior, the sophomore, and the freshman. So there are other members of the staff who may simply be appointed: the typist, the layout artist, the staff artist, and the photojournalist, and the circulation manager. So these are the duties and responsibilities of the publication staff mentioned. Number one is the chief editor. So supervises the editorial staff of paper. So usually she writes the editorials of the organ after consultation with the members of the editorial staff. However, any member may write the editorial so long as she follows the guidelines in writing. So furthermore, she edits all articles preparatory to the submission of the same to the advisor for final editing and approval for publication. She likewise also supervised the preparation of the layout, dummy of the paper, and its pagination in cooperation with the managing editor and the layout artist. So she also causes the accomplishment of all assignments properly on time, and at times she acts as the liaison officer between the editorial staff and the advisor, as she also calls meetings of the staff. Next is the associate editor. So the associate editor edits the articles in cooperation with the chief editor. So she may be delegated with to write editorials of the organ. He prepares assignments of the section editors in consultation with the chief editor. So she cooperates in the preparation of the layout of the paper and paging of the same with the chief editor and the managing editor. Next is the managing editor. So the managing editor, acting as the hand of the board, she brings articles to the press for typesetting. So she also checks articles for typographical errors. She prepares the layout of the paper and paging of the same in consultations with the chief editor, and finally she proofreads proofs before these are finally approved by the chief editor and then by the advisor for printing. We have the circulation manager. She is assigned in ensuring the release and distribution of paper. So she also guarantees the smooth flow of the passing of the articles from reporters to section editors. She is assigned to oversee the flow of the processes in crafting the paper. Next is the section editor. So in section editor, we have the news editor. So assigned as the reporter to cover events relative to the school activities. So she writes news articles on assignment from the chief editor or through his or her own initiative in consultation with the letter. So, however, his or her primordial job is to edit all news articles submitted by the writers preparatory to submission of the same to the chief editor, then to the advisor. We have also the Filipino editor. So, this is an optional staff function, or position. So his or her prime job is to write the editorial of the Filipino section. So she all edits all articles preparatory to the submission of the same to the Filipino advisor for final editing and publication. Next is we have the feature editor. So it gives out assignments to feature writers. So she then receives and edits feature articles preparatory to the submission of the same to the chief editor, and sometimes she writes regular articles or column. We have the exchange editor. So for beginning school paper system, this is an optional function. So sometimes the function of the exchange editor are accomplished by the circulation manager. So, nevertheless, the exchange editor makes up a list of school paper sent by the school. So, she is designated to mail copies of own paper to these schools, as she also files their papers on a bulletin board or display them on a newspaper rack. So she too keeps files of school information such as class lists and lists of the homeroom advisors, the faculty, and staff members. Next is we have the layout section editors. So they are assigned to cause the assignment of the school's official photographer to take pictures on school's activities for the month or for a specified time. So they prepare pictorials, articles of the organ in consultation with the managing editor and chief editor. So sometimes their job is to write the captions of pictures utilized by the paper in cooperation with the chief editor. Next is we have the layout artist. So take charge of designing and formatting of all pages in the paper. So they label or properly identify all pictures made available for publication. So it is suggested that they write using pencil at the back of every picture of the event to which a particular picture refers. So they likewise help in the preparation of the layout of pictorial stories and make illustration for future articles. Next is the reporters. So the reporters, the life of the contents depends on the skills of the reporter. So they secure the cold and raw facts of an assigned event and write articles out of the same. So they receive assignments from the section editors or board of editors and then accomplish the same properly and timely. So those are the duties and responsibilities of the publication staff. We have also the publications policies. So a well-edited paper needs definite policies which may pertain to what it may print or to what the staff may conduct. So such policies may be posted on the conspicuous places like the bulletin boards in the staff room, or they may be printed and distributed to the staff. So for example is to support all school projects and to give only constructive criticism of sub projects and to maintain high standards of sportsmanship by avoiding personal enmity and jealousy both within and the outside of school. So that's all for today's discussion the about the campus paper and the publication stuff. So I hope you learned something with regards to this topic. So again, if you have any questions, you can chat it in our official group chat. So for your performance activity, on the comment section below, this is consist of 20 points. Answer the following questions by following the given format. So the deadline would be on August 31, 2023, 8 p.m. only. So from the topic, summarize the things that you learned. And also, we have the face-to-face activity. Since this is a campus journalism, I need your output. So, number one activity is choose one newspaper, cut its front page, and mount it on a piece of paper, the bond paper. Then label its parts following the guidelines below. So, I've given you already the format of the face-to-face activity. So, again, please collect or compile all our face-to-face activity by lesson because we will make it as your portfolio. So these are the guidelines, the nameplate, the banner head, the banner use, the column rule, up to kicker. Second activity, look for a magazine and one newspaper. Using the criteria below, identify the unique features of the selected magazine and newspaper. So present your output. So this is the format of the second activity. And that's all for today's discussion. So again, I hope you learned something. If you have any questions regarding the topic or you have clarifications, don't hesitate to ask it by chatting it in our official group chat. So thank you very much, and the schedule of your quiz will be announced also in our group chat. God bless everyone.